today I'm taking a little break and handing the camera over to another expert that's going to share some really cool tips with you today. So head on over and watch the video and let me know what you think.
Hi, my name is Geily Romero from Cutting Edge Financial Solutions, and today we're going to talk about mistakes that business owners, even fairly new business owners, make with their finances, organizing them, and managing their financials in their business. So the first mistake is very, very common. The first mistake is actually uh, merging together or mingling together personal and business finances. And I'm sure you've done it, especially at the beginning. You're thinking to yourself, I want to see if this even is liable. I want to see if this is a good idea. I want to see if this is even something that will sell. So you don't get a business bank account right away. You don't separate your bookkeeping right away. So if that's you, that's one of the biggest mistakes. We're going to talk about how to fix that and what to do instead. Another big mistake that I see a lot of entrepreneurs doing is not keeping good records of their finances. And we're going to talk about what that is exactly and how that could affect you in the long run. And finally, the last mistake that is very common and I see a lot of entrepreneurs making is focusing on their top line and not their bottom line. And they are profitable, but are they really? Because a lot of times you can have a very big top line, which is just your income, but then you're actually suffering from your cash flow management. So we're going to talk about cash flow as well, cash flow in your business and how to fix that and what that means exactly. So let's dive right in. The very first thing, like I said, is mingling together your business and your personal finances. And so that is a big, big no. Mostly because when you mingle together business and personal, there's a lot of misses that, things that could be missed. It's a big mess for your accounting. A lot of CPAs and accountants don't really like to see personal together with business. The IRS themselves do not really like to see personal with business, mixed in. So you want to make sure that you are keeping things separately. You want to make sure that you are saying, this is my business, these are my business accounts, these are my business expenses, these are my income generating transactions. You want to be able to say that. So one of the big things that you want to be able to do is you want to open a business bank account. So you want to be able to have everything run through that, all of your expenses, all of your income, absolutely everything that could be business, anything that you use for business. You want to make sure every subscription, absolutely everything runs through that bank account. And to go on over to the second point and the second uh, issue that I see a lot of business owners struggle with is not having proper bookkeeping. And bookkeeping is pretty much it's how you keep your financials. A lot of accountants and bookkeepers refer to, oh, how are your books? And, are your books clean? Are your books organized? It just means your financial system. It just means how are your financials being kept track of throughout the year. So for the very first thing is you want to be able to have a bookkeeping system in place. And a lot of us like spreadsheets. A lot of us go to spreadsheets at first. And while I don't have a lot like against the spreadsheets, I do not like them. They are not my favorite way of keeping track of financials. First, they lend themselves to human error a lot of times because it depends on the information that you yourself enter in there. And if you miss anything or you do a double entry or anything like that, it could really jeopardize your financials and just the ability that your financials have to represent your business. So instead, there are a lot of options nowadays that you could use to have a good bookkeeping system in place. Even as a very new, fairly new business owner, there's even free options. So I want to give you guys 4 options that you could use instead of a spreadsheet, instead of manual entry, instead of having to go in and do so manually and lend yourself to a lot of manual errors and just human mistakes. So the very first one, it's free. It's Wave Apps, and you could download it. And like I said, it's free. It keeps your books. You could connect your bank account to it. And when you do connect your bank account to it, your business bank account, because we've already dealt with keeping things separately, you want to be able to have it linked to your books, linked to your bookkeeping system, and be able to download those transactions. This will eliminate you having double transactions that you entered or things like that. You won't have to enter anything because they will automatically feed from your bank into your books, or into your bookkeeping system. So Wave is free and it has that feature. If you're just looking for something free to start, that's a good one. Another option would be FreshBooks. You could use that as well. Another option would be Xero. You could use that as well. Those last two are not free, but they are fairly affordable. And even as new business owners, sometimes we do have to make those initial investments. And we're not talking, a couple $100s a month. They're very, very affordable. I think they just go maybe less than $40, $50 a month or things like that. And then finally, there's also QuickBooks, which is my absolute favorite. I think it's a very like overall standard in the industry. So QuickBooks has very different levels of subscriptions that you could subscribe to, even if it's something like QuickBooks Self-Employed, which I really don't recommend, just because it's very limited and it doesn't give you the ability a lot of times to be able to upgrade. You kind of just have to start with QuickBooks Self-Employed and then download your data and then merge it into something else. And so I don't really recommend QuickBooks Self-Employed. I recommend even Simple Start, which then you're able to upgrade within the QuickBooks platform. So even if it's something like that, you could look into something like that. And more than likely, starting your business or being fairly new, you won't need something super robust. You won't need something that it's like the last subscription, the most advanced subscription within QuickBooks. You'll probably just need the very basic one that will probably cover all of your needs. So number two, that's how you fix not having a good bookkeeping system. That's how you fix not having a spreadsheet. And also to add to that, you want to make sure that you do have a good bookkeeping system that is able to catch all of those manual entries and things like that. Or I would say eliminate all of those manual entries and not lend itself to manual errors, because you want to make sure that at the end of the month or at the end of the year, when you're going to do your taxes, you want to make sure that your information in your books matches the information in your bank or in your credit card or in whatever system that you have set up for your business. Some businesses have business credit cards and business bank accounts. And so you want to make sure that everything matches in your books, matches your bank statements for those business accounts. So this way, your taxes and every information that you are representing or bringing forward from your business is not just in your bookkeeping and not only verified that way, but it's also verified by your income. It's also verified by your statements and your credit card statements or your bank statements or whatever the case may be. Everything that actually hit the bank is classified and taken account for in your books. And then the third mistake that I see a lot of business owners do is not focusing on the bottom line. A lot of times we see income, we see revenue, we see sales, and we just think, this is amazing. I made, 6 figures, for instance. And then you don't, your business making 6 figures and you making 6 figures, it's a very different statement, one from the other. And so one of the reasons why you want to be able to keep an eye on that bottom line is because that at the end of the day is where everything resides. Out of that bottom line, there's things that you are going to be able to do. You're going to be able to pay yourself. You're going to be able to pay any taxes that you have to pay for your business. And so you want to keep an eye on that. If that bottom line is at 0 or close to 0, you're going to find yourself in a cash flow problem, which is where I was going when I said you may be profitable, you may, have a 6-figure business and things like that, but then realize that you're running constantly into cash flow problems. Cash flow problems just means that you are finding yourself that the money is not coming in exactly at the time that it needs to go out. And so that creates a problem in the flow of cash, in the flow of the money when it comes in and when it must go out. So one of the things that a few strategies that I would recommend to be able to fix that would be, number one, you want to be able to have contracts in your business, contracts set in place that stipulate your due dates, they stipulate any late payment fees or anything like that. You want to be able to take advantage of softwares that perhaps allow you to do automatic payments. For instance, if you have QuickBooks, it allows you to notify your clients and have them sign a form and say, hey, would you like to have this monthly payment, withdrawn from your account, especially if you are on a monthly, if you're selling like a monthly service, that may be something that you may take advantage of, and your client may be okay with that. A lot of times people don't pay not because they don't want to pay. It's just, you're running a business, they're probably running a business or running a family, running so many other things. And it's not even intentional. It's just a matter of getting the money to you. So you want to have those strategies in place. Also, Honeybook is a really good system as well, where it allows you to set up recurring payments where your clients automatically pay you and you don't have to be in the hassle of requesting payments or waiting for payments to arrive or things like that. If you don't have those services in place or those features in place, you could set up stipulations within your contracts for late fees and late payments. Like if you give them a grace period, and then after that, you could tell them, okay, beyond this grace period, beyond this time, there is a late fee of $75 or something like that. And that will kind of create an urgency for people to not pay late. Millions of companies do it, even your water bill or your electric bill or whatever the case may be, a lot of them do it. And we don't pay late. Or if we do, we know that there's going to be a fee involved. So it does work. Another strategy that I want to share with you regarding cash flow, because it is a really, really big deal, is you being able to look at your business, look at your expenses, and sort of budget for them. When we think of budgets, a lot of times we think of personal finances. And while that's all great and dandy, I work with budgets and it's amazing, your business also could have a budget, and it could also carry forward a budget and use it as a financial tool. And what I mean by a budget in your business is, for instance, look at your expenses, look at your income, look at those due dates, and kind of coordinate. If you know that all of your clients pay you at the beginning of the month, and you know that that's when you have the most income of, or like flow of cash into your business, you want to make sure that you accommodate as much of those bills within that time frame, so that way you don't have so much of a, later on you don't have that much cash, but you have outflow going out and you don't have cash flow going in, and then that creates a problem in cash flow. So if you kind of accommodate your bills to match the times that your income is coming in, and that should help. And then if that's not possible, if you're like, yeah, but I can't really change the subscription or tell them to take it out this day instead of this other day, which is when all my clients pay me, then you yourself have to look at your financials and say, okay, by this date, I need to have this much money in the account. And that means that when my clients pay me on the 1st, I have to make sure that by the 15th, I still have $150, because they're going to take out this payment of 120 or whatever the case may be, just using numbers. But in essence, it's just you yourself are aware. The biggest thing with financials is progress over perfection, and just being able to be proactive and head on. A lot of times we avoid them. A lot of times we neglect our financials, and then we find ourselves with overdraft fees, or we find ourselves in a bad spot with cash flow. And it's because we don't realize that this could have been avoided if I would have just sat at the beginning of the month, and I would have realized all these things that are coming out, and I would have planned for my cash flow in and out, and just the flow of cash throughout the month, throughout the year, throughout the quarter, whatever the case may be. So those are the 3 biggest mistakes that I see. Just to recap: Mingling personal with business, don't do it. Just get a business bank account, run everything through it. You will be happy that you do. And you will be happy that all of your transactions are in one place and that you don't have to go and pick from your personal things that were business. It's just going to be a really big hassle when you have to file taxes. Number two, have a bookkeeping in place. It's going to be so much easier when you have something that keeps track of your financials. And not just that, you don't want to just do it for taxes. Your financials are the livelihood of your business. So keeping your financials intact and having them to be a reference point, your financials are supposed to be what guides your business forward. When you want to do goal planning, when you want to set goals and set forecasts and say, this year I predicted I'm going to have this many clients, or that I'm going to sell this many services, or my goals for this year are XYZ. You want to base that not just off of feelings, or not just off of, things that you are being optimistic about. You want to look at your financials and you want to say, okay, let's look at how many services did we sell last year of this product or of this service or whatever. And then from there, you want to make educated financial decisions. When you want to make an investment, you want to be able to say, okay, based on my financials, this is a decision I feel comfortable with. So keeping financials very, very important, not only for tax time, but as you grow your business, as you day to day in your business, they are going to be the livelihood of your business. And number three is paying attention to your cash flow, paying attention to that bottom line, not just your top line. And you know what? From that bottom line is that all good things happen. And by all good things, I mean, once you hit that bottom line, that's when you really start paying yourself. That's when you really start making those big investments. That was when you really are able to say, I'm going to save for this, or I'm going to do that, because you're no longer living off of income or revenue or whatever sales, all of these expenses that I have in my business, because it's just the cost of running my business, and then absolutely nothing to pay myself, or absolutely nothing to save for a really big investment, a coach or a program or anything like that, or just savings in general, maybe for taxes. Maybe you are one of those people that that you're going to get a big tax bill, or you're scared that when you file your taxes, you have a huge tax bill, and you don't want that to be the case. So you want to be able to either be proactive and save for it, or you want to be proactive and pay quarterly for it. So regardless of the whichever one that it is, you want to be able to do that. And that happens at that bottom line stage. Once all of your expenses and things like that, reoccurring payments and whatever the case may be, are all taken care of. So those are the three problems that I see most. Those are the ways to fix it. And then I want to give you guys three more tips on how to move forward, how to be prepared for tax time, and how to continue with your financials. So number one is, I want you guys to take an assessment of yourself and really try and understand, is this something that I feel comfortable doing myself, or is this something that I have to outsource? At the end of the day, whether you feel comfortable doing it yourself, or you feel comfortable hiring an accountant or a bookkeeper, which is actually probably going to be cheaper than an accountant, at the end of the day, the cost will outweigh your benefits, will outweigh the stress of you having to Google, the sleepless nights, the YouTube videos that you're trying to figure out, how to put things into places, how to classify things correctly. It's going to outweigh all of that. So that's number one. Take an assessment and decide if this is something that you can do yourself confidently, or if this is something that it's better off to outsource. Number two, have in your business a way to save. A lot of times especially if you've been in business for a year or two, or even if you're fairly new, for a fact every business has its highs and lows. And when it's high, all is well. We're running the ground running, and it's going great. But then when it's low, it's very hard to stay afloat. It's very hard to sustain. So you want to be able to set a bank account or set a savings account, a way to save so that when things are good, you don't spend all of your money. What I call it a reserve. So you want to be able to set a reserve amount so that when things are low seasons, you still have enough. If your high seasons are $5,000 a month, just to use a number, and then off of that, you pay all of your things, and then you have 3,000, and then you're like, okay, this is good. And then you go and you like spend all of that. And then you have a really low season and you only have $1,000 on sale that month or that week or whatever the case may be, and your bills are 2,000, that's going to be a struggle. That's going to be a real cash flow problem. So to avoid that, you want to set up a reserve where you have money to then say, I'm going to transfer, or I'm going to take it from this reserve that I saved up while it was good in business and I didn't use all of it. And I'm going to keep my business afloat this month, one more month, while I think of strategies, while I think of things that are not working and I make them better, or whatever the case may be. But in essence, is to help you keep afloat and to help you continue. So a very, very good strategy. And number three, this one will help you with your taxes, is to make sure that you keep receipts and that you keep proof of everything. Especially a lot of things are digital. It's very, very, very easy to just say, hey, email me a receipt, and then set up a special folder in your email where it's like receipts for taxes, and then the year, whatever, 2020, 2020, 21, 23, whatever the case may be. And then off of that, whenever you have to file your taxes, just go and have all of that proof in there, so that if at any moment in time they come back asking for proof of this expense or this deduction, remember, you're getting tax deductions, you're getting tax credits. So they may come back and say, hey, you need to show proof of this, or you need to pay. So a lot of times you want to be able to do that. I'll tell you what I do myself is when I file my taxes for that year, I then come back and I make sure that I have all of the receipts for absolutely everything that I received a tax credit or a tax deduction for. Every single tax deductible expense must have a receipt, whether it was a website domain, whether it was a subscription, whatever that it was that any office expense, any meals, anything at all. I make sure that I have a receipt for. And if I did not put it throughout the year, I make sure that I go back while it's still fresh that same year, I find it and I save it in that folder. And I have one for every single year that I have been in business. And it's just a practice that I keep on doing every single time, so that if there is at any point of time, any type of moment that I have to show proof or anything, 3 years, back, then I'm able to say, okay, let me pull up my file for that. And right there it is. I don't have to go and, oh my gosh, I don't remember. It's been 5 years. No. Everything's already there because I did it at that moment. So make sure that you do that. Make sure that you keep proof and receipts and things like that of everything. It will help you with your taxes, whether at that moment or later on. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it was very educational for you. And I hope that with all of these tips, you better your business financials and are able to conquer your financials, your taxes, your accounting, your bookkeeping, and so much more. Good luck in your business.